Hello everyone, this is Professor Kent. Today's recording is to take up some of the homework at the back of the chapter or in the chapter. So the first one we talked about in chapter was rental income. We're going to read the question and try to make sense out of the question and try to answer the question what the question is asking us to do. So when you look at it, it's saying Miss Sheila Horn purchased a residential property. So we purchased a residential property in September 2004 for how much? 685. And then she spent 140,000. 2,000 is paid for the land and 543 was paid for the building. She immediately spent 35,000 to make major capital investment to the building. If we're at this point, what is the cost of the building? So what we did is we bought land doesn't depreciate, so we needed to only look for the building now. So the cost of the building is, so we have a cost of the building. The cost of the building in this case is 543,000. And then she also spent a capital expenditure, and my capital expenditure that she paid for was 35,000. So the total capital cost for the building is going to be 578. So we call it a capital cost. The reason we're not doing it for the land does not depreciate, but building depreciates. First thing we needed to do is we wanted to know how much CCA should be charged. So in this case, we purchased in 2024. The CCA rate for this class will be 4%. So if this is a 4%, I'm going to take 4% of that. And what does that give you? It gives you a CCA. My CCA will be 23,120. We want to know, do I take all the CCA or we don't take all the CCA? But that's the CCA I'm allowed to deduct. So now what we're doing is, if it's a rental income, first thing we're going to do is we're going to receive money. That will be called a rental income. In the question they told us the gross rent for the 2023-24 was 17,200. So that's how 17,200 was spent on the rent. Of course, if it's an income, you are allowed some expenses, the expenses other than CCA. So all CCA is an expense, but we're saying expenses that are rental expense that are other than CCA. Could be management fee or could be any other expenses. They told us in the question, while the rental expense other than the CCA total to 15,100. So that's what it is. So what is your rental income? My rental income will be your income minus your expenses. Either you have an income or you have a loss. In this case, we have an income of 2,100. So what happens is that we can reduce this rental income to zero, but we cannot increase the CCA. We can deduct up to, so the rental income is zero. So we can deduct CCA till your rental income is zero. So we can only deduct 2,100. We can make, what is this question? CCA cannot use to create increase. If you have a rental loss, you cannot increase the rental loss, so by claiming the CCA. So if you have a rental income, you can reduce your rental income to zero, but we cannot have a rental loss with the CCA. So that's the purpose. So in this case, we will not pay any taxes because my rental income for the year 2024 will be zero. So you will not be claiming any rental. You will not be claiming full CCA because we are only allowed to deduct up to the rental income. So that was the maximum CCA was 21,000. The maximum CCA was 23,120, but we are allowed to only deduct the 21 100, that was my rental income. So let's go to the next one. The next topic in this chapter was we talk about eligible dividend and non-eligible dividend. When we think of an eligible dividend, we think of the gross up amount is different, and your tax credit amounts are different. So that's what the difference is. Eligible is from a public, and non-eligible is when you receive dividend from private corporations. So in this case, let's read the question and see what the question is asking us. So Miss Ellen Holt reside in the province and received 15,000. So they will tell us how much my dividend is. In this case, the dividend is 15,000. The dividend was 15,000, and it is eligible dividend 15,000, and it is my eligible dividend. So when you do that, first one is you are going to say what is your eligible dividend as individual dividend received. So they told us in the question eligible dividend the person received was 15,000. This is at an individual basis. So what we have is, from eligible we are going to gross up. How much are you going to gross up? By 38%. So that's what the gross up amount is. So the gross up amount will be 38% of the 15,000. That will give me 5,700. So when we think of a taxable give it, so then what do we get? We get a taxable dividend, and that's how much we pay taxes on. So we pay taxes on the 20,700. Every individual is in a different tax bracket. So we pay federal tax, and we pay provincial tax. So depending on the bracket you are. So what we do is we pay federal tax and we pay provincial tax. So if you are in Ontario, you will pay Ontario tax, and you will also pay Canadian tax. So the federal tax this individual will pay is in a bracket of 29%, and provincial is 14.5. Altogether, they are in 43.5% tax bracket. So I multiply by 43.5%. So what we do is we call it income tax before the dividend. So the income tax that we pay, we owe the government, both provincial and federal government, before your dividend tax credit. So before your dividend tax credit, and that will be multiplied by it, and I will get 9,500. So this is how much I owe taxes to the government. So this is how much taxes we owe to the government. But we can reduce this taxes by claiming dividend tax credit. So we have a dividend tax credit. First of all, dividend tax credit applied to the gross up amount. So what is my gross up amount? My gross up amount is 5,700. So a dividend tax credit only applied to the gross up amount. That's the first thing. So I multiply by what? You will now be told in the question, what is your dividend tax credit? My dividend tax credit that we get is 6/11, and they also told us we have a provincial dividend tax credit is 30. So this is my federal, and my provincial is 30%. So then I add both numbers, and then what I'm going to do is I multiply by the 5,700, and what we do is we get a dividend tax credit. That dividend tax credit is 4,819, and then the tax that the federal and the provincial tax that this individual will pay to the government will be the difference between the both. That will be your 6,84186. So that's what it will be. So the federal and provincial income tax payable. So we have a federal and provincial income tax. payable, that is 4186. In this case, if it's eligible, your gross up amount is different, and your tax, if it's a, these are the two amounts can change. So let's go to the next one, and the next question is that we have a non-eligible dividend. So what we have is we have a non-eligible dividend. So when we do that, let's look at it and see what happens. It's from a Canadian corporation, but they're non-eligible, so we call it private corporations. So the dividend, Mr. John received a dividend, we call it a non-eligible dividend received, and that is 17,000. If it's a non-eligible, my gross up amount is 15%. So we have a gross up amount that is 15%. So this is the difference between eligible and non-eligible. This is the first difference. Gross up amount is different, and I add the gross up amount 2550. My pen is leaking ink, but that's why I'm just talking at the same time. So we have a taxable non-eligible dividend, and that is your 19,550. That's the first thing. Now what we're going to do is this person, Mr. John, pays federal tax 29% and provincial tax 12%. So the combined tax, so the combined tax, this person is in combined tax, which is your federal and provincial. So 29% is federal and provincial is 30% altogether. Sorry, no, 12%. I got the wrong number here. So federal is so federal was 29% and provincial was 12%. So 29 plus the 12, that will give me 41%. So that's how much the income tax before. I will have an income tax before the dividend. For the dividend tax, so I take this number, multiply by the 41%, I will get a number 8106. So I multiply both numbers. So now what we're going to do is we're allowed to reduce this taxes by claiming the dividend tax credit. So we are going to have a dividend tax credit, and the amount will be, now the dividend tax credit, they told us the provincial is 30%, but we also get federal. The federal for the non-eligible is 9 over 113. So this is, you have to memorize this part. You have to memorize this part, and that will be applied to the gross up amount. That didn't change, so 2550, and I will get an amount 2530, and that is the amount. And then the difference between the both number will be the net federal tax, federal and provincial income tax payable. And that is the difference between those will be 5486. Now that's what it is. Now if I were to think about it, now the actual, now if you think about it, what went into as an individual, if you were John, so what we did is 7,000 this person made into dividend. From that they paid taxes and the tax amount was 5486. The amount that went into John's pocket or in his bank account was $11,514. So if you think about it, we paid a lot of taxes. John paid a lot of taxes to the government. The money that went in his bank account is $11,514. and 14. So if you were to say the same thing, how much money went into Miss Allen's bank account? If I were to think about it, she earned a dividend of $15,000, and the tax she paid was 4186. So the difference between the both number will be 10,814, and that's what the money went into her bank account. So if you think about it, we pay a lot of taxes to the government, and that's what went into your bank account. I hope this will help with the chapter 7. Chapter 7 was a rental income, and it was in that chapter we have had a dividend, eligible dividend, and we have a non-eligible dividend. So I am done with the chapter, with the homework. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. That way you will know every time I record a new video. It will be available to you as soon as I post it. You will get a notification. If you have any question, don't forget to reply underneath the video so that I can reply to your messages. And sometimes it takes me a little longer to reply to your messages or create a video, as I'm in the classroom and teaching courses, and then sometimes I don't get time to do the recording, but I try my best to get the recording to you as soon as possible. Thank you so much for subscribing to my channel, and thank you so much for watching my channel. Take care and bye for now.